Hi, Neville Marten here from Guitarist.
And I'm Richard Barrett.
Today we're looking at a couple of Taylor guitars, relatively new models. In fact, there's another one behind us which we'll look at briefly, but that's already been demoed in Guitarist, so that's for another day. These models are the GTE in Urban Ash. Can you tell us a bit about that, Rich, please?
I'll try. Yes, did a little bit of reading so we can speak about this with authority. And this is actually a new size completely. I don't think anyone's ever made an acoustic this size. The proportions of the body, the scale length actually is unique to this guitar. So it's a step above the GS Mini and a step below whatever the smaller of the big body acoustics is. So it really is quite an interesting feel. Equates with a set of light gauge, so say a 12 thou on the top. You've got the same feeling that you would have if you were detuned on a regular scale length, if you see what I mean. Or I think that it equates also to if you had a capo at the first fret, you've got the similar
So if you had a capo at the first fret of a regular, say, 25.5 inch scale length, this is what that would feel like.
You have the physical experience, so it's quite easy to get around on. Yeah,
so you have a similar kind of slackness of the strings. So, as you say, a 12 gauge would feel like an 11 gauge.
Yes.
And you've got that first fret feel as well. So it's a really interesting size of guitar. It's smaller bodied than most that you're used to, yet it's not tiny like a baby. And the scale length is slightly more comfortable, but not a problem for the hands. It's not cramped. In fact, it's really nice that open chords feel really comfortable here, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. And it seems that in the size and in the sound, there's a real, because previously you've had the choice to go with the really they sound beautiful, but they're quite quaint sounding. The smaller body guitars are great for finger picking, but possibly strumming, especially if you're getting into altered tunings with drop strings like D or C or whatever, might be a bit much for that. But
a bit of a hole in the bass resonance. Yeah, because what they've done, Andy Powers, who's the Taylor's designer these days, he's done a really cool thing on these because, as Richard just said, the smaller body guitars often have a hole in the bass where the bass register should be. There's often very little. They sound sweet, but they don't sound quite as wholesome as a larger body guitar. So Taylor's modern V bracing is usually like this. You've got one there, and one there. What they've done in this, they've used the C bracing, which is they've got this one here, they've got that one there, but this one here runs across there, leaving this whole area free of any bracing. So this area is free to resonate to give you that wholesome bass sound.
Absolutely, yeah. So it doesn't sound like a J200 or something, but I feel that it really does add in. You get some of those kind of lovely mids and the clear highs that you get with those smaller body guitars, but you just got a little bit more reinforcement under there. I would bet that they record extremely well.
Yeah, we were saying this earlier. It's lovely to have a smaller body guitar in the studio because they don't have too many of the harmonic overtones that microphones tend not to like very much. Regarding the timbers, I mean, this is called Urban Ash, and it really is Urban Ash. These are chamal ashes that are grown in many California cities, and the wood that these is taken from were felled, they were ready to be felled in order to be replaced. And so Taylor has grabbed these timbers and they're making these guitars. It's really interesting.
Let me hold this one up as well so that we see there's a bit of natural variation.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Grain filler or anything.
No, like I was saying earlier on, they're identical, but they're not identical because they're not carefully selected out of, are they all the grains got to be the same? It's like what you get is what you get.
Yes.
And it's really nice. That one's a bit more stripy than this. This seemed to have a bit of kind of fiddleback in there as well. And
the tops vary too, don't they? I think mine was closer grained.
Yeah, and this one's got a slightly wider grain. The lines are slightly wider apart. It's a little bit darker than that, I think.
Yes.
They're Sitka spruce, which is a nice wood, a nice sustainable wood as well. And the necks are mahogany.
Yep, with the scarf joint at heel and, both heels, if you like. That's where heel and the wrist.
Yeah, exactly.
With the body parts.
The heel's an extra bit. So it's a great way of conserving wood. because you've got the headstock is scarfed on there, so that's a separate piece. So rather than cut the neck out of a whole great big piece of mahogany that deep, you're being much more sparing with the use of wood.
Yes, I mean, and my understanding is that it's stronger anyway.
Yeah, it is stronger.
That's got to be good, because these do seem to be, gig ready in the sense that you've got the touches like the strap buttons on. And so the idea that you could leave this on a stand and even if someone knocked it off, chances are it'd survive.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's a professional guitar rather than a parlour guitar.
Quite.
The other thing on here is, on these, is that the battery compartment is down by the strap pin jack
it's
sort
really,
of combo.
Yes, it's really nice. So you've got the end pin jack, strap button there, very simple flip top.
I quite like that, because even though I fully appreciate that it's good to have things handy, a lot of guitars having that battery compartment in front of you feels a bit, or reaching inside still to get the thing out. So that's the business end, plug it in, sort the battery.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Finally, on the woods front, the fingerboard, bridge and headstock facing are eucalyptus, which is a great wood, becoming much more popular now.
Yes, and sustainable.
Yeah, and Andy Powers was saying that this urban ash has got a very similar kind of sound to aged Honduran mahogany, which is one of the very best tone woods ever for acoustic guitar building and electric guitar building.
A happy day when they found that out.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's got a very dry kind of feel and a very dry kind of sound, and very fast acting. So should we play a bit more?
Yes, indeed.
Out of interest, I'm being picked up by these two AKG 414 microphones, and you are?
I'm going straight through the onboard pickup, the Expression 2.
Okay, a well-known pickup that Taylor has been using for some time, and it's very well regarded too. I think they sound really nice. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Very balanced. I think that the potential issue with something like this is if you want that quaint, small-bodied sound, then that's great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the idea here is to produce a guitar that has some of that, but a little bit more of that kind of low-end heft that you might want.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure that, as I said earlier, I don't think that they're looking to compete with something like a Dreadnought, guitar or something like that. And they make those anyway, don't they? But this has got a bit more of that thump, and it sounds a little bit like it's ready to put in a mix.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. They sound like they've already done it for you.
Yes.
I mean, when I was doing the bit of finger picking there, I could feel this end of the guitar working. You can really feel it, because, as I said before, there's no bracing in this area. So this area is really free to vibrate and let the bass start happening.
Yes.
And being smaller bodied, as I say, you don't get those massive overtones like with a big Dreadnought or something like that, with mics in front of it especially.
Yes, absolutely.
They can start to confuse things. There's too much going on.
Love them as I do. Yeah, you find yourself sat there, shelving away lows and, pulling out things.
Yeah,
exactly. About 160 or whatever, because it just can't be there because it's just
I know, and in fact,
too loud.
as the guitarist review said about the size, it's the perfect size to kind of cuddle up on the sofa with, or if you want to play live, whack it round your neck, and off you go.
Yes.
It doesn't look silly in size.
No.
It doesn't look like some titchy thing. It looks
I quite like it. It makes me look slightly bigger.
Me too.
That's no bad thing.
Yeah. So they do really sound nice.
I was going to talk about the pickup a little bit, actually.
Yeah,
it was just that, obviously, on the market are lots of different sorts of systems, and a lot of them sound great, but something that I particularly appreciate about this is the simplicity of it, because sort of hard-won experience has told me that sweepable mids and polarity switches and all that kind of thing, they're incredibly useful, and I'm not trying to say you don't need any of that, but arguably if you're the guitar player on stage, you don't need that.
No.
You need to be able to kind of trim the lows and the highs and the volume. Though this is just set, they have a little kind of click détente. Is it
détente?
Oh, détente. Semi-bilingual. In the middle there, and I just left it there. And I've found that I've played these a few times, and a couple of times actually, bizarrely, they've been a hired guitar when I've done fly gigs where I'm just accompanying, and found that then you just leave them in the middle, and you can feel relatively safe that you're not sounding like an electric banjo in a corrugated iron shed.
That's very true. No, they do sound nice. They're wholesome to play. The neck, as we said earlier, is that slightly shorter scale length, and although we were playing open chords here, they didn't feel overly cramped to me.
No, not at all.
Some guitars can, and that they didn't to me. So it doesn't feel like you're playing a constricted guitar, which some of the baby guitars can.
Yes, in fact, it hadn't really, because we got these out of the case, and the first thing that anyone would do is have a little play, which is what we did, and then had a look at some specs and everything. Didn't really occur to me.
No,
that they were shorter.
No,
it wasn't one of those things where you're struggling to fit your fingers into an A chord or anything like that.
No, it's really lovely. I mean, they're nice. I mean, they're simple. They've got the classic Taylor pickguard shape, and they've got some nice purfling rings around there. But other than that, they're fairly simple guitars. The finish is thin. You can actually see the grain. You can see the depth of the grain through there, and you can feel it. It's dry, satiny smooth. You're not clagging all over the guitar like some finishes can.
Yes,
it's just easy to get on with guitar. That's not going to cause any problems to you. They just plug in and play.
Yes, I mean, there's a little bit of natural variation. They're very consistent guitars. I mean, I'm noticing, having two of the same make and model in one space is actually really informative, when you're talking about a company and the way that they build things, and they really are very consistent indeed. I mean, obviously the woods are slightly different, and I've noticed that this one, there's a slight kind of thud in the E that I really like in this particular one. I mean, it's hard to know whether that's going to translate through the pickup. And
also, you probably pick a bit harder than I do, so you're probably pulling a bit more out of the guitar. I've lost my thumbnail over lockdown as well, so that's a bit I usually have my nails gelled, to be a bit more picky, and this thumbnail's gone, so I haven't got much of a thump on the bottom end. But the guitar's got thump.
Actually, I'm hearing that from here.
They also... Not too close.
Copyright.
Exactly. That, of course, is the point in any guitars which are kind of handmade, as all guitars like this are. They're all going to sound ever so slightly different. You might find out of these two you prefer that one or you prefer this one. So you have to go to your local store, really, play a few, see which one bonds with you, which we always do.
Yeah, absolutely. Though I would say that if you're in a situation where for one reason or another you have to buy online, then I think it's pretty safe.
Oh, they're really consistent. I mean, we were talking earlier on and Richard turned around and we were facing each other, and the volume coming straight at that sound hole was really, really big. They really project well.
They do, actually. Yeah.
I did mention this one earlier. It's been forming a lovely backdrop to this little demo. This is the 811E. This is almost like the flagship version of what we got here. This is up in the professional range of Taylor instruments, made with traditional East Indian solid rosewood back and sides, high quality Sitka spruce top, nice abalone inlays. It's very, very tasty.
It's ebony fretboard,
fretboard, and it's kind of double the price
ticket.
of these, which probably brings us under price, doesn't it? Really.
Yes.
UK wise, this one, these GT, this is the GTE, so it's got the expression. The GT without the expression comes in about 1,600 UK pounds. These are 1,800-ish UK pounds.
Right.
But all solid woods, lots of care and attention has gone into their making.
Yes, clearly, absolutely, and the sort of, I imagine, the thinking time, the design, all those things that make it an easier guitar to live with, as well as the consideration of how shiny is it, how impressive is it in front of my friends. This is well thought through.
No, exactly.
And won't give you any drama.
Well, as you say, well thought through. What the original design was intended to do has been, in our view, totally fulfilled by what we have in our hands.
Yeah, I'd agree. Actually, yeah absolutely.
Yeah. That which is essentially slightly shorter scale, slightly slacker string tension, lovely bass response from a small body guitar. It does the job.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just one extra word about the bass response. As we sort of said earlier, it's not a dreadnought bass response, but it's just in proportion with the smaller body. So it's a sound that I don't think has really been available before to people.
No. I mean, I've always loved the GS Mini. I think that's a fantastic concept, and they're brilliantly made, and you can stick one on your back and travel the world. Actually, speaking of that, these come with those wonderful aero cases that we've waxed elegantly about before. Whenever we open a Taylor guitar and it's in one of those bags, you say, "Oh, I wonder if they'd make one of these for my guitar." But they're lovely. They're really solid. They're gig bag weight, but they're beautifully protected, aren't they? The guitars.
Yes. Yeah. Again, worry-free,
Yeah, exactly. So, in summary, they do exactly what it says on the tin, and that is to sound great, play great. There's nothing more to say, really, other than...
no fuss, everything's been thought about.
So there we go. Taylor GTE Urban Ash. Thank you very much.